Soon it will be Christmas. Welcome to Talking Shop with PropertyBank. I'm Edith, and the year just went by so fast. And before long, we will be in 2025. So I think let's have a understanding of how the year has gone by, especially for quarter 3 to quarter 4, and do a small wrap up so that we can have actions for 2025. So for the second half, the geopolitical situation continues. Will the war stop? Nobody knows. Will, President Trump change it? We all don't know until 2025. So life continues, and we know that for this US election, on the ground, the emotions versus what the voters actually want. They want a president which will lead America into a more pro-business environment. And I think overall, it has a very positive impact to a certain extent for America and of course for the rest of the world. We are not too sure, however, I think with Trump being Trump, he's very pro-business. Let's see what will be in store for 2025 then. Closer to home, we have our Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, who stepped into office. And I think with that, the second half of the year, you see him also traveling. And besides, being a very different new gen Prime Minister, I do kind of favor the kind of situation or what he will have for Singapore as a whole to continue to be pro-business. And I think we all know recently in November, it is what, most of us will say, 笑料. 笑料, why? Because the new launch is really the key driver of all the real estate activities. And we're talking about EOK, which is Emerald on Katong, being reported as 99% sold, but actually it's 100%. I was checking in and I know that all the units are just wiped out in day one. So that is how robust the real estate continues to be, and this has ripple effect to the rest of the under construction properties in the surrounding. And not only that, of course, we know that all the positive news that's being reported, the number of transactions that kind of override whatever that has happened the first half of the year. So it's like the statement for all the residential real estate agents that, wow, this November is almost like you work 1 month for the whole of the year. For some of the new launch guys, I don't work 1 month for the whole year, unfortunately. Yeah. Then, of course, closer to home, and also because of the worldwide interest rate revision downwards, and it will continue to be stable. If you haven't watched, we have a YouTube dedicated about interest rate. Do click on it and watch it. So that's kind of a very big overview for the half of the year that has gone by. So let's go into each of these sectors. So for commercial industrial, you don't hear so much as the new launch, all hype up in the news, but there are also so much activities that's ongoing Q3, Q4. So the biggest deal was the 1.6 billion sale of a portfolio to a JV between Lendlease and private equity group Warburg Pincus, which is also linked to Blackstone. So I can tell you that, that kind of portfolio sale, which is targeted towards also the business park, the biomedical and life sciences, that also certainly says something, which basically this sector itself, as always, identified by all these big boys, are sometimes, I would say, in the correct direction. And other notable transactions, which is in Q3 itself, also is including the purchase of 51% stake in an industrial building in 20 Tuas South Avenue 14 by ESR Logos REIT. There's also a 49% sale in Alimentum, which is a biomedical science development in Buona Vista, to a Brunei Sovereign Wealth Fund, and the deal was valued for the stake at 272 million. So you hear all these big numbers, they don't do it alone, but usually with a consortium. So this is again taking shape in terms of the industrial side of things. And then if we look at also divestment from the office sector, one of the major divestment is CapitaLand having divested the 21 Collyer Quay, an office building located in Raffles Place for 688 million. And I think news has it is actually a Chinese F&B group. I think we all love their food. So this is something which you never hear of in the past. But I would say that with all these changes right now, you realize that investors can also come from all across beyond Singapore. And they are having a lot of, I would say, faith in and confidence in how Singapore is performing. Robust activities also recorded in the retail sector, including the Ion Orchard, which is also a 50% interest that it's a stake holding sale for 1.8 billion. Then what I like, which is a building called Stamford Court, has been sold also from Singapore Land. And basically the new owner is going to do some rejuvenation, asset enhancement. I think it'll be very exciting to see such a character building in that location, which is a little bit quiet, but it's going to be more vibrant as they have the track records. And same which also Seneca Square, which is in Changi North, but it's sold. And it is a retail component of the suburban mixed-use development, sold at 64 million. Also to a very experienced, basically good in asset enhancement. So we are all watching all this rejuvenation of the assets. And along which I think for the industrial, it has never stopped. So many of the asset enhancement will bring value for the occupiers as well, because they will be in that same location that they know well, but in a new and sexier building without a tear down. Yeah. Now coming to the office sector, so the newest CBD building that's newly completed in 2024 is IOI Central Boulevard Towers. And if you haven't really understand about that building, you can watch our YouTube. Yeah, you can see how are some of the units that's fully fitted and also bare for your selection as well. So for this new kit in CBD, which is in between the Raffles Place and also the Marina Bay location, is having traction. And I think in terms of the notable transactions, not just alone on this building, we are looking at WPP, which has relocated from 50 Scots to CBD itself. And WPP, as you know, is actually one of the biggest advertising companies, and they are locating into town. I think in the past, they tried to go into fringe city, but however, because of talent attraction, I think nowhere else, city is always the most central. And city is also where people can feel a lot of the vibes in the surrounding, and that also help them to pitch corporate clients for their business. And also, having said that, the expansion of co-working service providers, so one of which is the Work Boulevard, which has expanded to 20 Collyer Quay, and also Prudential Towers, may not be the tip-top new buildings, but the way that they invest in shaping up the interiors definitely play a part, weighing between a balance of cost effectiveness and still being in CBD. So these are all sums up, the direction of all these office occupiers as they move. Cost continues to be part of the whole equation. So Keppel South is taking shape, and I like the new in the old. As you know that this is actually in Tanjong Pagar. So this again is being the latest in CBD, but in Tanjong Pagar itself, it's also going to get traction. And in terms of the shape, the look, you are having a workforce that can be working in this new building and at the same time enjoying the amenities, which is the hawker food nearby, and also shopping during their office hours in the Tanjong Pagar Plaza itself, cheap and economical. So data by EDB, which is Economic Development Board, showed that Singapore's total manufacturing output, excluding biomedical manufacturing, has surged 21%. That was in August. And I think it continues to grow because of the electronics cluster. And of course, we all know AI. AI is definitely in. And with AI also is a ripple chain of impact, such as the semiconductor sector and the IoT. And as such, I also am happy to say that we had in the second half of the year also did a notable deal, which is in one of the IoT company expanding in Singapore. And this expansion is like threefold. They have been in one of the older industrial building, and they changed the chance to change because they are looking at futuristic environment. And if you have not watched our Workplace for the Future is here, do click this particular YouTube that talks about the future workspace. So with industrial, basically there's a wave of asset rejuvenation, and on top of that, we are seeing EDB having attracted top companies that comes in to further their manufacturing activities in Singapore. As such, they are Applied Materials, which is already in Singapore. They intend to double up their manufacturing capacity, and they also setting up the existing innovation center, to expand even further. And for the biomedical, we have AstraZeneca, and we also have, I hope I pronounce it correct, which is AbbVie. AbbVie broke ground with this US dollars 223 million expansion of its facility in Tuas Biomedical Park. And for AstraZeneca, which actually plans to build 1.5 billion of the antibody and to be completed in 2029. So all this has also got the ripple effect to our construction industry as well, and definitely means also projects that is going to happen in Singapore. Last but not least, also Kurare, which is in chemical. They are investing like 410 million in a production plant in Singapore, and is expected to commence operation in 2026. So with all this, we know that so-called industrial won't die. It's just that, which part of the industrial, properties that you're talking about. With the strata is a completely different story. But however, with strata investment itself, right, there are our local small, medium-sized companies that will either invest in such properties to occupy so that they don't rent anymore. That means to say that rental, don't pay rent, but pay towards their own mortgage. Then you have the other group, which is the investors. So they will, however, be renting out to such, small, medium-sized companies that would rather conserve the cash for their own operation, but they will then pay rental. And so industrialists, both industrialists as well as occupiers, can look out for the new launch industrial buildings that we have a palette for you. And that's our new launch YouTube. So if you haven't watched it, please do click. Punggol Digital District. I like the whole master planning of that space. And I think for industrial, it's no longer that industrial like, knocking. It's really high-tech kind of, also supporting industry. And that is into tech and technology. So this is one that we hold dear to our hearts, because this new development itself is not just only for occupiers of tenants working there as workspace, but also jumping in next, it's going to provide a new area of retail mix as well. You can imagine that of our earlier days where we have like Biopolis and that kind of clean looking environment. So the new kit that will continue to grow in 2025. Yeah, next up, retail, which is basically quite correlating to what we mentioned just now, Punggol Digital District, which is off outskirt. However, this whole outskirt or even like downtown in Orchard, we are seeing a robust activities by the Chinese retailers which are not going to slow down. In fact, we oftentimes also have beats between Chinese F&B versus our local F&B. They are definitely very aggressive to make sure they secure a spot in Singapore. I mean, look at Luckin Coffee, look at Mishie. I think, of course, Hai Di Lao started first, but they are all everywhere right now. So I think in a small footprint like Singapore, you can almost feel that some of my Chinese friends do tell me that they are like visiting some parts of China when they come to certain streets in Singapore. This kind of retail activities continue to be robust, and of which also we like to highlight one notable lease transaction, which is Time Zone. They have taken a lease at Pasir Ris Mall, which is also very new, and I think the arcade itself are definitely big occupiers for the malls, but of course they will demand a much lower rate. But these are also industries that we are watching out for. So with that, those like planned under the construction includes, of course, we call them the Punggol Coast Mall, which is in the digital district itself, Kenny Hill Square, Lentor Modern, and of course the RWS expansion in Genting, Singapore. So all this forms up making sure that Singapore continues to be a key attraction to also tourists, as well as I think locals like me and you, we have more spaces to go to for shopping. So it's been a bittersweet year. I think for those of you who are in real estate, I mean peers like us, right? Started with the year not knowing where we'll be heading, and then comes November, the new launch like solve it all, But for commercial industrial, because we're handling B2B, yes, beginning of the year we were not sure either, and then comes after Chinese New Year, then I think activities pick up a little bit in March, April, and then after that middle of the year it was like kind of slowing down until quarter 3. So I think that whole thing sums up that from bitter it becomes sweet, and we look at 2024 as we wrap it up. With so many of the new kids in the block, there happens to be, of course, more robust. And we also realize that businesses are more resilient these days. Where the war happens, where the niche industries are, war doesn't mean, it'll kill off everything. And we are more prepared right now since 2022, where the war starts. It's kind of a little bit more, willing to know that interest rate cuts will help have a positive impact. And overall, we have these two groups of clients, which is the corporations themselves, who are certainly being more assured that there are ways and means to tighten the pocket while attracting talents. If you are not too sure, talk to us. Yeah, and for the investors or even business owners come investors who will invest to buy their own property so that they pay mortgage instead of rent. And also the other investors who have said that I have spare cash, I don't rush into the new launch because I am still at MOP, which is I'm still having my HDB. That is not, the 5 years is not due yet. I have some spare cash, or I've already purchased enough of residential. Those group of people, if you want to find out more, we have the webinars, so you can also connect with us. So PropertyBank, we hold a bank of properties, and you can bank on us. And don't forget to like, subscribe to our useful contents that we dedicate to the business community and investors like yourself. I'm Edith, signing off, talking shop with PropertyBank.